What happens when Hollywood's most outspoken actress sits down with one of television's most controversial hosts while the cameras are rolling and millions of viewers are watching from their living rooms? Moments like these are exactly why live television remains one of the most unpredictable forms of entertainment in the world. When two strong personalities with very different viewpoints come face to face on a live broadcast, anything can happen. Sometimes the conversation stays polite and professional, but other times the tension becomes impossible to hide. In today's story, we're diving into one of the most explosive and unforgettable moments in daytime television history. A moment that left audiences shocked, producers scrambling behind the scenes, and social media exploding with reactions. Before we get into the details of what happened, it's important to understand why this particular interview created so much anticipation in the first place. The actress involved in this moment has built a reputation over the years for being fearless when it comes to speaking her mind. Throughout her career, she has never been afraid to challenge powerful figures, criticize controversial decisions in the industry, or express strong opinions about politics and culture. Fans admire her honesty and courage, while critics sometimes accuse her of being too blunt or confrontational. Regardless of which side people fall on, one thing is certain: when she speaks, people listen. On the other side of the table sat a television host who has built an entire career around asking difficult questions and pushing guests into uncomfortable territory. Known for sharp commentary and an unapologetic interviewing style, this host has never shied away from controversy. Over the years, many celebrities have walked onto the show expecting a friendly conversation, only to find themselves facing unexpectedly tough questions. Some interviews end with laughter and mutual respect, but others have turned into heated exchanges that quickly go viral online. So when news broke that these two personalities would be sharing the same stage for a live interview, viewers immediately sensed that something interesting might happen. Fans from both sides began speculating about what the conversation would look like. Would it be a thoughtful discussion between two experienced media figures? Or would it turn into a clash of opinions that nobody saw coming? As the broadcast began, everything appeared normal. The studio audience applauded as the actress walked onto the stage, smiling and greeting the host with a handshake. At first, the conversation followed the typical structure of daytime talk shows. They discussed the actress's latest film project, her experiences working in Hollywood, and the challenges of maintaining a long career in such a competitive industry. The atmosphere felt relaxed, and for a few minutes, it seemed like this would be just another routine celebrity interview. But live television has a way of changing direction very quickly. As the conversation continued, the host gradually shifted toward more serious topics. The questions became sharper, touching on controversial statements the actress had made in previous interviews and social media posts. The audience could sense the tone of the interview beginning to change. The actress remained calm at first, answering thoughtfully and explaining her perspectives. However, it soon became clear that the host was not interested in simple answers. Instead, the host pressed further, asking follow-up questions that seemed designed to challenge the actress directly. The tension in the studio started to rise. Some audience members leaned forward in their seats, sensing that they were witnessing something unusual. Even viewers at home could feel the shift in energy through their television screens. At one point, the host made a comment that appeared to catch the actress completely off guard. For a brief moment, the studio fell silent. The actress paused before responding, carefully choosing her words. What followed was a powerful reply that immediately changed the direction of the conversation. Rather than avoiding the confrontation, she addressed the issue head-on, speaking with a level of honesty and emotion that few people expected to see on daytime television. The exchange quickly became more intense. Both individuals stood firmly by their viewpoints, creating a moment that felt less like a traditional interview and more like a real debate happening in front of a live audience. The producers backstage reportedly began discussing whether they should shift to a commercial break earlier than planned, unsure of how far the conversation might escalate. Meanwhile, viewers at home were reacting in real time. social media platforms, lit up with comments, clips, and opinions from people watching the interview unfold live. Within minutes, the moment was already spreading across the internet, with many people calling it one of the most dramatic talk show exchanges they had ever seen. Despite the tension, both the actress and the host continued the discussion without walking away or ending the segment abruptly. In a strange way, the confrontation created a moment of genuine honesty, rarely seen in carefully controlled television interviews. Instead of scripted answers and promotional talking points, audiences were witnessing two strong personalities, openly disagreeing in real time. By the time the segment finally came to an end, the studio audience remained stunned. Some applauded the actress for standing her ground, while others praised the host for asking the difficult questions that many interviewers might avoid. Regardless of where viewers stood, almost everyone agreed on one thing: they had just witnessed a truly unforgettable moment in television. And that's exactly why moments like this continue to capture public attention long after the broadcast ends. In an era where many interviews feel rehearsed and predictable, unexpected clashes like this remind audiences that live television still has the power to surprise us. Before we dive deeper into the details of what happened during the rest of that interview, including the moment that nearly caused the show to cut to commercial early, make sure to hit the subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think celebrity feuds on live television reveal the truth about public figures, or do they simply create more drama for entertainment? Either way, the story you're about to hear proves that when strong personalities meet under the bright lights of a live studio, anything can happen. You will not want to miss a single moment of what I'm about to tell you, because what started as a completely ordinary television appearance quickly turned into something no one in the studio expected. The moment unfolded live, right in front of cameras, a studio audience, and millions of viewers watching from home. At first, everything seemed perfectly normal, just another routine stop on a celebrity promotional tour. But as the conversation progressed, the atmosphere shifted in ways that no one had predicted. By the end of the segment, what was supposed to be a standard daytime interview had transformed into one of those rare television moments that people would talk about long after the broadcast ended. The guest at the center of this unexpected moment was Olivia Wilde, an actress and filmmaker known not only for her work in Hollywood, but also for her outspoken personality and willingness to share strong opinions on important issues. At the time, Wilde was in the middle of a promotional tour for her latest directorial project, traveling from one talk show to another to discuss the film, its themes, and the creative process behind it. Like many filmmakers promoting a new project, she was scheduled for a series of media appearances designed to reach different audiences across television, radio, and online platforms. One of those scheduled stops was the popular daytime talk show, The View. For years, the program has been known for blending celebrity interviews with lively discussions about politics, culture, and current events. The show's panel format often creates dynamic conversations because each host brings a different personality and perspective to the table. Sometimes these conversations remain light-hearted and friendly, especially when celebrities visit simply to promote a new movie or television project. Other times, however, the discussions can become surprisingly intense, particularly when controversial topics are introduced. When Wilde's appearance on the show was first scheduled, the producers expected the interview to follow a very familiar format. The plan was simple: a 20-minute segment that would allow Wilde to discuss her new film, talk about the inspiration behind the project, and share a few entertaining stories from the set. It was exactly the kind of segment daytime television thrives on: relaxed, conversational, and engaging enough to keep viewers interested without diving too deeply into serious debates. Behind the scenes, the production team prepared carefully, just as they do for every guest who walks onto the show. Research notes were compiled, talking points were drafted, and the hosts reviewed background information about Wilde's career and the film she was promoting. The goal was to create a smooth, engaging conversation that would appeal to the show's daytime audience, a mix of entertainment fans, casual viewers, and loyal followers who tune in every day to watch the hosts discuss the latest headlines. From the producer's perspective, this interview seemed almost guaranteed to go smoothly. Wilde had appeared on talk shows many times before and was generally known for being articulate, confident, and comfortable speaking in front of cameras. She had experience handling both light-hearted questions and more serious topics, which made her an ideal guest for a show like The View. The expectation was that the segment would move along effortlessly, filled with a combination of humor, thoughtful insights about filmmaking, and perhaps a few behind-the-scenes anecdotes from her latest project. The schedule for the segment was also carefully structured. The first few minutes would focus on introducing Wilde and highlighting her achievements as both an actress and a director. From there, the conversation would transition into the story behind her new film, why she chose to direct it, what message she hoped audiences would take away, and what challenges she faced during production. The hosts would likely ask about working with the cast, memorable moments from filming, and the creative decisions that shaped the final version of the movie. Finally, toward the end of the segment, the discussion would wrap up with a few lighter questions designed to keep the tone fun and entertaining. These might include personal anecdotes, humorous moments from Wilde's career, or quick-fire questions that often generate laughs from both the audience and the hosts. After that, Wilde would thank the panel, the hosts would remind viewers about the release of the film, and the show would move on to the next segment of the day's broadcast. At least that was the plan. In the world of live television, however, even the most carefully planned segments can take unexpected turns. All it takes is a single question, a misunderstood comment, or a moment of tension between personalities to shift the entire mood of an interview. And when strong opinions enter the conversation, things can escalate faster than anyone expects. When Wilde arrived at the studio that morning, everything appeared completely normal. She greeted the hosts backstage, chatted briefly with producers, and prepared to walk out onto the stage as the audience applauded. From the outside, it looked exactly like any other celebrity interview that had taken place on the show hundreds of times before. But what no one realized at that moment was that this routine appearance was about to unfold in a way that producers could never have predicted. What began as a simple promotional conversation would soon become something far more memorable, a moment of live television that viewers would replay, debate, and discuss long after the cameras stopped rolling. The segment was supposed to be simple, the kind of relaxed conversation that daytime television relies on to keep viewers entertained during the middle of the day. Producers envisioned an easygoing discussion that would unfold smoothly, the sort of light celebrity interview designed to keep audiences engaged while they ate lunch, folded laundry, or took a quick break from their daily routines. Nothing controversial, nothing too intense, just a pleasant conversation between hosts and guest that would fill 20 minutes of airtime before the show moved on to its next topic. But the moment Olivia Wilde stepped onto the iconic set of The View, something felt different. It wasn't anything obvious at first. To most viewers watching from home, the introduction looked completely normal. The studio audience applauded enthusiastically as Wilde walked onto the stage, smiling and waving politely. She greeted the panel of hosts with friendly handshakes and took her seat at the famous curved table where so many unforgettable television conversations had taken place over the years. Yet inside the studio, there was a subtle shift in the atmosphere, the kind of shift that seasoned television viewers and longtime fans of the show know how to recognize immediately. It was one of those moments where everything appears routine on the surface, but underneath, something else is quietly building. And at the center of that feeling was one person in particular, Joy Behar. Behar sat in her usual seat at the panel. The place viewers had seen her occupy for countless episodes over the years. As one of the show's most recognizable personalities, she had built a reputation for speaking her mind without hesitation. Her sharp wit, sarcastic humor, and willingness to challenge guests had made her both a fan favorite and a controversial figure at the same time. But long-time viewers of The View know that Behar has a certain look, a particular expression that appears on her face when she's been holding on to a thought or an opinion that she's eager to share. It's subtle, almost easy to miss if you're not paying close attention. A slight tilt of the head, a knowing smile, and a gaze that suggests she's been waiting patiently for just the right moment. And on this particular day, that look was unmistakable. It was the kind of expression that signaled she had something prepared, something she had been thinking about for days, maybe even weeks. And now she was finally ready to bring it up in front of the cameras. For viewers who had watched the show for years, that look often meant only one thing: things were about to get interesting. As Wilde settled into her seat and the applause from the audience faded, the hosts began the segment the way they always do, with warm introductions and friendly greetings. The conversation started off smoothly enough. There were smiles, light jokes, and the kind of casual small talk that helps ease a guest into the interview. But even during those opening moments, there was a sense that Behar was waiting. She listened as the other hosts welcomed Wilde and mentioned her latest project, occasionally nodding along as the introduction continued. Yet she remained unusually quiet, watching carefully as the conversation unfolded. Then finally, she leaned slightly forward. The shift was small but noticeable. When Behar speaks on the show, the room often changes instantly. Her voice carries a confident tone that signals she's about to steer the discussion in a new direction. And on that day, as the cameras focused on the panel and the audience settled in to watch the conversation begin, she turned toward Wilde with a smile that seemed both welcoming and slightly mischievous. "So, Olivia, welcome," she began. The words themselves were perfectly polite, the standard greeting viewers had heard countless times on the program. But there was something about the way she said them, a certain emphasis, a slight pause, that hinted the conversation might not stay light and friendly for long. Wilde smiled back, appearing relaxed and confident as she prepared to discuss her latest film. Like most celebrities on promotional tours, she had likely participated in dozens of interviews that week alone. She was used to answering questions about her work, her creative process, and her experiences in Hollywood. From her perspective, this probably seemed like just another stop on the media circuit. Yet the energy at the table suggested that this interview might take a slightly different path. The other hosts watched closely as Behar continued speaking, their expressions showing curiosity about where the conversation might go next. Anyone familiar with the rhythm of the show knew that once Behar began guiding a discussion, the tone could shift quickly. And while Wilde maintained her calm and composed demeanor, viewers at home might have started to sense that the conversation had the potential to become something more than a simple promotional interview. Because when someone like Joy Behar has been holding on to a question or an opinion for weeks, the moment she finally decides to bring it up rarely passes quietly. Sometimes it leads to thoughtful debate, sometimes it sparks an unexpected moment of honesty, and sometimes it creates the kind of television moment that people talk about for years afterward. On that particular day, sitting around that famous table with the cameras rolling and the audience watching closely, it seemed very possible that something memorable was about to happen. The familiar phrase echoed across the studio as the cameras returned from commercial break and settled once again on the panel of hosts seated behind the show's iconic table. The audience applauded politely, expecting the conversation to continue, in the same relaxed tone that had defined the opening moments of the segment. On the surface, everything looked exactly like a typical daytime interview. But anyone paying close attention could feel that something slightly different was about to happen. At the center of that subtle tension sat Joy Behar, one of the most recognizable and outspoken voices on The View. Over the years, Behar had developed a reputation for asking questions that other hosts sometimes avoided. Her sharp humor and fearless commentary had created countless memorable moments on the show, and long-time viewers knew that when she leaned forward with a certain look in her eyes, the conversation could quickly shift from casual to confrontational. That Moment appeared to arrive just seconds after the show returned from the break. "Back to the View," Joy began, her voice carrying a tone that sounded warm and welcoming on the surface. Yet, beneath that sweetness, there was something else, something experienced viewers recognized immediately. It was the kind of deceptively gentle tone that often came right before one of her sharpest remarks. She turned her attention toward their guest, Olivia Wilde, who sat calmly at the table with the relaxed posture of someone used to being in front of cameras. Wilde had spent years navigating interviews, press conferences, and public appearances. She understood how talk shows worked, and she knew how to keep conversations friendly and engaging. Joy smiled slightly as she continued speaking. "I have to say," she said slowly, choosing her words with care, "I've been following your career with great interest lately." The comment sounded complimentary, almost flattering. In fact, many viewers might have interpreted it as the beginning of a friendly conversation about Wilde's work as an actress and director. But something about the way Joy delivered the line felt calculated. There was a pause after the sentence, just long enough to create a hint of suspense across the table. Wilde adjusted slightly in her chair, maintaining the confident composure that had made her such a successful public figure. She flashed the kind of bright, polished smile that Hollywood publicists often call the $1,000,000 smile, the same one that had charmed audiences in interviews, film premieres, and talk show appearances for years. "Thank you, Joy," she replied warmly. "It's always a pleasure to be here with you, ladies." Her response was gracious and professional, exactly what viewers would expect from a celebrity appearing on a daytime talk show. She sounded sincere, and her tone suggested that she was ready to discuss her latest project and enjoy a pleasant conversation with the panel. But Joy wasn't finished. In fact, it almost seemed as though Wilde's polite response had set the stage for the next part of the exchange. Joy tilted her head slightly, her expression shifting into something more curious, almost skeptical. The smile on her face remained, but it now carried a subtle edge that many viewers had come to recognize over the years. "Is it?" Joy asked. Just two simple words. Yet the way she delivered them caused the entire energy of the table to change. The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon, suspended between host and guest in a moment of unexpected tension. For a split second, the studio seemed to fall quieter than before, as though everyone present, from the audience members in their seats to the crew members behind the cameras, sensed that the conversation might be heading somewhere unusual. Around the table, the other hosts reacted almost instantly. Quick glances passed between them, subtle but unmistakable. It was the kind of silent communication that happens when people realize a conversation is about to shift in a direction no one had fully prepared for. Some of them raised their eyebrows slightly, while others looked down briefly before returning their attention to the discussion. Anyone familiar with the show could recognize those reactions. They were the small signals that said, this interview might not stay light and friendly for long. For the producers watching from the control room, the moment likely felt equally significant. Talk shows thrive on lively discussions, but there is always a delicate balance between engaging conversation and uncomfortable confrontation. When interviews begin to veer toward tension, producers must decide whether to let the moment unfold naturally or step in to redirect the discussion. And at that exact moment, it was still unclear which direction this conversation would take. Wilde, meanwhile, remained composed. Years of experience in the entertainment industry had taught her how to handle unexpected questions with grace. Still smiling, she appeared to consider Joy's comment carefully before responding. To viewers at home, the exchange might have seemed small, just a brief moment of curiosity between host and guest. But those who were paying close attention could sense that something larger might be developing beneath the surface. After all, in the world of live television, sometimes the most dramatic moments begin with the simplest questions. And when someone, Like Joy Behar asks a question in that particular tone, it's rarely just a casual remark. More often than not, it's the beginning of a much bigger conversation. At that point, one thing had already become clear to everyone watching. This was not going to be the soft, easygoing interview that producers had originally planned.